everyone, Chicagoland. Welcome to the show. My name is Dana Devine. I'm the Community Engagement and Communications Manager for the Metropolitan Chicago Breast Cancer Task Force. This is live, so you know what it means. That means anything can happen. Like right now. We're a non-for-profit organization. We're working so hard to end breast cancer disparities here in Chicago. So listen, today's show is amazing, as it always is, and this is a call-in show. You can call 312-738-1060 if you have anything to say, and I know you do, because everybody in Chicago has a lot to say. If you need a mammogram, or you know someone who needs a mammogram, here is the information you need right now. It's the Metropolitan Chicago Breast Cancer Task Force. And you can write that number down, 312-942-3368 or info@chicagoBreastCancer.org. All right? So, it's the second quarter of the year. We are almost done. We've done half of a year. Have you gotten your screenings done? Have you done your birthday month screenings, your pap smear, your mammogram, your just annual physical? We talked about this in January. What is the excuse? There are no excuses. You know, 99% of breast cancer found early, you're still living. And 80% of lumps that are found are not cancers. Don't deny, verify. So far this year, we've talked about singles in breast cancer. We've talked about, let's see, entrepreneurs in breast cancer. We've talked about excuses. We've talked about why you can't go to the doctor. It hurts too much. Why you can't get that mammogram. God's got you. That's a good answer, but okay, your car broke down. There's no insurance, and we are busting these myths out. You guys have got to screen. Got it? You got to screen. Today we have a very special guest, and let me just... A very special guest, but let's play a little who is it? Who is it? Hold on. Let's see, there's a prize over here. Trying to get the prize. No prize. She works for NBC5 on the morning show. Who is it? She came from New York, CNN's Early Start program. Who is it? She she co-produced two family shows. I think I've got it right. One in English and one in Spanish, and it was like a really big deal in Chicago. She was navigating 2 languages, 2 shows on cable at the same time, winning lots of awards, and she still does. Who is it? She's a breast cancer survivor from Chicago, and she's very vocal about her journey. Who is it? She had a double mastectomy and was very, very, very public about it. Who is it? Well, I'm going to tell you who it is right now. I would like to introduce to you, you guys see her every morning. It is such a treat for us to have her here with her testimony and her story. And call 2 friends right now, tell them to tune in. But put your hands together right now for Chicago's very own Zoraida Sambolin.
Oh, very well done.
Girl, I was working all day. But I got, how you doing? I'm very well, thank you. I mean, you look so well.
I do. I'm healthy. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be with you, with a fellow survivor.
Amen. It's a sorority, right?
It is. It's a sisterhood, I call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one that you don't want to be a part of, but when you are, you know that you're a part of something very special.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I'm a part of a few support groups that, you know, there's just an ease when you walk in the room. You know, you don't have to wear a wig. And some of the women are just coming from chemo and they're still, so I get it.
It's good for you to do that.
Yeah, so, you have, though, just been very vocal about your journey. And I think that is the way to increase awareness. I mean, you didn't have to. When I got through, I was not very public about what I had gone through, but you started out the door batting, swinging that bat.
Well, that was a really... That was really a tough decision because originally, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I didn't go public. I just shared it with my family, and I was coming up with a plan. And so what happened was I was trying to figure out how was I going to tell my viewers that I was going to be gone for a while. I was with CNN at the time, and I had no idea. I kept on thinking, how does that conversation come up? And my co-anchor, who I absolutely adore, John Berman at the time, he's very emotional. And so I had gone already into the office to tell the man that I had breast cancer, and he about fell out of his seat. He didn't know what to do, what to say. And I thought, if that's your reaction, how am I going to be able to tell the viewers? And then Angelina Jolie had a double mastectomy, wrote that op-ed piece in the New York Times. I was headed into work. Somebody told me about it. It was one of my producers. And then my boss, the big boss, Jeff Zucker, said, hey, he knew that I had breast cancer, and he said, do whatever you want today. And so I chose that time to disclose. And the reason that I did it was because it gave me an entry to talk about breast cancer. But it was a moment of anger, because when Angelina Jolie came out with her story, a lot of people were shaming her, I felt, because they said she was trying to glamorize a double mastectomy, and that now women everywhere are going to start getting double mastectomies, and some of them were physicians who were weighing in. And I thought, I can tell you that it is not glamorous. I can tell you that the decision is not glamorous, that it was not an easy decision, that I really agonized over it. And so she ended up giving me a voice and giving me strength. So that's how I arrived at telling the public.
So you're saying the day she made her announcement, you walked in and your guy said, you can say whatever you want to say?
Well, yes, my boss had said, that use this opportunity if you want to, or not. It's totally up to you. And so I chose to run with it and to have a dialogue about it. And then after that, I chose to treat myself as a story. You never want to be the story, and that's the uncomfortable part of it.
Right, exactly.
But it was an opportunity to learn. And for me, I think that the work that we do as journalists is all about teaching. And in this case, it was also self-education, trying to understand what was happening to me. And everything that I learned, I was committed to sharing with the viewers. Because who knew who would see themselves in that story and what kind of information they could glean from it. So every time I learned something, I was very happy to share the information.
So the world gave you confidence. So
Angelina Jolie gave me confidence. She's the woman who allowed me to speak. And then after that, the volume of women, as you know, who start, calling or emailing or, attempting to get a hold of you is really vast. And then you feel an awesome sense of responsibility to try to make sure that you are sharing the latest information so that way they can make informed decisions as well.
So did you go through we have a caller. Okay. Let's take a call?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, caller.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Ray, and I just wanted to say this. It's a great show as always, but, maybe because men, they're supposed to be macho and stuff, but they don't want to go to the doctor either because they're ashamed. It can't happen to men. There's just as many excuses that men have as many as the women. And I just want to say this because I know I had to go for an examination for x-rays and stuff. Thank God it was okay. But it can't happen to men. What happens if my friends find out that I win? I don't care anymore.
Well, that's good. That's good because I'll tell you this. I'm not exactly sure of the exact number, but around 2,000 men will be diagnosed with breast cancer nationally. And I know 5 here in Chicago. And they're around 40, and they're just under 40. And they had to walk into the women's breast clinic, and it was an uncomfortable walk. However, all 5 of them are alive right now.
It is. I actually did a story on a woman and then found out that her husband was a breast cancer survivor. And he ended up being very vocal about what he went through. He showed me his scars. And I thought how empowering that is, and how empowering of you to call in and to talk about this, because you're absolutely right. What happens is that everything is a stigma for men as much as it is for women to talk about breast cancer. And so the fact that you had the courage to pick up the phone and call and talk about your experience and what you had to go through is amazing. So I appreciate that. I hope that there are ears that are listening to you right now, because everybody needs to get checked out. You cannot, you find a lump, you find something that is unusual, you run to the doctor.
Absolutely, not walk, run to the doctor. And you know, unfortunately, if you're under 40, a lot of times the medical team or whatever, they will send you away. You know this, right? One young lady, she had to totally advocate for her mammogram. She arrived at the appointment and they, screened her a little bit. And when they saw her age, they were like, oh no, so they called her doctor. Her doctor was like, okay, I sent her over there. She needs a mammogram. And sure enough, at 19, she had breast cancer. But, they were packing her up and sending her home. So, Chicago, though, is still a city with a very disproportionate the disparity in deaths between black and white women. And what do you have to say about this?
Well, it's a reality. And one of the things that I did find when I was doing all of my research was that black women do not get diagnosed as often, but when they do, it is deadlier. And that is a reality, and it's a fact. And I actually challenged the woman who was my doctor in New York because I wanted to understand this. I thought, this is unacceptable. And so how do you change this dynamic? And what she said to me, she said, what we need is more women of color to participate in these trials. We need to be able to understand this disease, but there's a fear in the Hispanic community. There's a fear in the African American community of what that means. And so we aren't as committed to be able to try different things so that they can figure out what it is that is different about you, what it is that is different about me and our ethnic makeup that ends up making that cancer deadlier.
And to that I say, when I had the choice, I understand that fear. When I had my treatment options, nobody really presented me with a trial. But I'm sure if you have to make a choice, you're just really interested in what's tried and true. I'm not saying that's the best, but I
get it. I
Yeah,
understand the fear. I understand the fear as well. But I think that at the end of the day, so many trials have happened for other ethnicities, right? And I just think it needs to happen. You need to make sure that you are a part of that as well. And I also think that the advocating that you're talking about, advocating for yourself, understanding what your options are, is very important. A lot of times the information is so overwhelming that you can't figure out how to make a decision. I consider myself a very smart woman, and I dig into research, and I was overwhelmed by my options, and I was shamed about the decisions that I was choosing for myself. So what I say now is, and women still reach out and tell me, I'm going through this, what do you think? I always say, whatever you decide, I support you 100%. Whatever choice you make for yourself, all I ask is that you make an informed decision, that you really, really dig for yourself, advocate for yourself, ask the doctor the questions, walk in there with your notebook, understand, take somebody with you in case you don't have you're just so overwhelmed with emotion that maybe you're not prepared to ask the questions, and maybe your friend is, or your husband is, or your significant other, whomever, but somebody who can actually see whatever is missing and make sure that those questions are asked.
For sure. That's definitely an appointment that you need a second, somebody else there.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you this again, speaking of breast cancer, because if you feel anything, if this conversation makes you a little uncomfortable and you have not been to the doctor and you're over 40, I need you to call right now, 312-942-3368. We offer you help if you're underinsured, uninsured, or just unsure. Please call the number. And if this information isn't for you and it's maybe for your neighbor, your sister, your aunt, your mom, write it down. Help somebody, support somebody. Free mammograms. That's my favorite 4-letter word. Free! And, just give us a call, 312-942-3368. We have NBC morning show Zoraida Sambolin visiting with us today. She is a breast cancer survivor, and now we're on 7 years?
5.
5 years.
I just made my 5-year mark, and so that's a big milestone, as you know. So talking about advocating for yourself, I called my doctor because I was on tamoxifen. And I said, so I hear that the protocol now is 10 years as opposed to 5 years. So clearly I will be on tamoxifen for another 5 years. And he said, no. Here's what we've learned. And so I did not have to continue my tamoxifen. So I am free and clear right now, still going to the doctor once a year to make sure that I'm checked out. But I am doing incredibly well, very healthy. And I love that.
I love that too.
And my cancer was caught very early. I had very dense breast tissue, and so from a very early age, I was having mammograms and ultrasounds and biopsies and lumpectomies, and so I had a long history of.
So what's
of
an early age? What age was when did you start?
In my
screening?
early 20s, because just my tissue was so lumpy. And so the beauty of that is that then they have something to constantly base it on. Yes, they'll go back and they'll see, oh, so this changed or that changed. And, then they end up watching you very, very closely and very carefully. But one of the things that the radiologist said, if you have dense breast tissue, you have to be careful because cancer hides when you have dense breast tissue. And so if somebody says to you, you have dense breast tissue, then it is your job to make sure that you are aware every time you have a mammogram or an ultrasound what is happening with your breasts, because cancer likes to hide. And my radiologist said to me, I think we're going to miss a cancer in you. That's what I think. I think we're going to miss it because your tissue is so dense. And sure enough, I was told that I had DCIS, which is a very early form of breast cancer in one breast, and that the other one looked kind of iffy.
Yes.
Well, I ended up having an invasive cancer in the one they said was DCIS, and the other one was an early cancer. And so I ended up having cancer in both breasts, and they didn't know that going in. I chose to have a double mastectomy because I felt that there were too many questions, too many question marks, and I did not want to have any regrets. And so that's why I decided I'm going to have a double mastectomy. And in the end, when everything was, when all the tissue had been looked at under a microscope, that's what they came up with, breast cancer in both.
Now, I'm just going to say that I too was diagnosed with breast cancer in both breasts. And I'm seeing more of that. More women are being diagnosed with breast cancer in both breasts. I don't know what that means. But I do know, Chicago, last year we led the nation in breast cancer disparities between black and white women. And while some of it is due to lack of quality care or access to quality care,
Yes.
I just want to know where the study is about the environment, this double breast cancer. It's just interesting.
And the triple negative, and there are some, in both breasts. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, and I was not a diagnosed case going in.
Right.
I was an iffy case on one and a diagnosed on the other, and it
Wow.
just so ended up that way. But no history of cancer in my family. Zero history of cancer. And so it does make you think, it makes you wonder, but I say what it does for me, Dana, is it empowers me. The little girl who's sitting here that is running your Facebook Live right now, my daughter, she will definitely be on top of it moving forward. And all the girls in my family will be on top of it also. So it happened once, and thank goodness that I was on top of it also. And if it happens again, we will deal. It will be early. And so that is the only saving grace I have, is to know that if it's caught early, that your chances of survival are so great. They are so great.
And that goes for most cancers. We're talking about breast cancer right now, but go to the doctor. Just
Yeah.
go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Don't be scared. So many excuses. I hear, let me tell you these little sad excuses I hear. What do you hear when your friends say they don't go to the doctor?
Well, I actually, when I was with CNN and I was diagnosed, Susan G. Komen had me be their spokesperson in the Hispanic community. And the number one thing that I heard is that I'm too busy. I'm too busy, the kids. I have my kids, my husband. And so I found myself, I was doing radio programs across the country, sitting in my kitchen table, just going from radio station to radio station, or being connected to them. And every woman kept on saying the same thing. And I said, don't you realize that if you are not there, that you can't do all of those things. You cannot take care of your family. You cannot love them up. You cannot see them grow. You can't take care of your husband. You will not be running a household if you are not there. So the number one thing you need to do is take care of you. Make sure that you are strong so then you can give. But if you're not strong,
it takes me right to, I say this all the time when I'm driving through, I'll just say the Inglewood neighborhood or neighborhoods that are boarded up and maybe high crime pockets. I say to myself, Medea died too soon in that house. She did not go. And and we all know when Medea goes, families tend to fall apart.
Right.
And so because she did not screen and because she was too busy and she had an inflammatory breast cancer and she did not go to the doctor, she passed away. And so the kids are running, a little askew. And now her granddaughter is at risk because she did not check with Medea and she doesn't know her breast, her history. And she's not checking. So it makes me very concerned about these young girls. I mean, we saw what happened when Medea left. You can look at some of these degenerate neighborhoods, and I just believe that that might be the cause of it. So.
Well, you do. You have a lot of women running the households there. And so at the end of the day, that health is very important. And I do understand, the limitations, or at least the ones that you think you have. But there are so many free programs now. I mean, even the doctor who took care of me, I remember going in here, and he was at is at Northwestern, and he said, I will give a woman the same service that I give you, free of charge. We do X amount of these every year, free of charge. And I thought, well, we need to tell the world. Right. Everybody needs to know that they can get the quality care. They can get the quality care. You just have to take that very first step.
And you're right, and just eliminate the fear. What have you changed in your lifestyle?
Everything. Well, I always thought I was healthy, and then I worked with a nutritionist.
After chemo?
Yeah. Actually, if I'm going to be honest, it was just last year that I started really thinking about, because I always thought I was healthy, and I thought, well, it's not what I eat. I exercise. I take care of myself. I mean, I don't sleep really great because I do this crazy morning show, and I get up at a ridiculous hour of the morning. But to combat that, I was exercising, eating right, or at least I thought I was. And this past year, I went to a nutritionist because I thought I am in menopause, and so that's why I'm getting a little big around the middle. This is what I assumed. And he said to me, no, let me take a look at your diet. So he had me use an app. He had me use an app where you actually put in everything that you eat in the course of a day. And I'm thinking he's going to tell me, you're doing a great job. He called me after the first day, and he said to me, I know what your problem is. Your problem is sugar. And I thought, I don't eat sugar. And he said, you have a banana in the morning, then you have watermelon, you have pineapple. That's all sugar. And the way that the body processes that is not really good for you. So you need to get off all of that. Because I had already given up candies, that type of sugar, because cancer loves sugar.
Right.
But then I've also eliminated that from my life as well. Sporadically, I'll have some fruit, but my life is, vegetables, fish.
Working for you, girl.
I take
Maybe
care
there's
of myself.
a cookbook in the cancer cookbook.
Who knows? Who knows?
Again, thank you so much for coming by, stopping by. I just want to remind you one more time that if you need some support, you can give us a call, 312-942-3368, the Metropolitan Chicago Breast Cancer Task Force, or stop by ChicagoBreastCancer.org. I want to thank Donna Lynn Schaefer for producing this show, Maurice Joshua for the music, Maxine Went for the makeup, Sophia Hobbs for the the producing of the Facebook Live here, and of course Zoraida Sambolin, who stopped by, and she didn't have to do it. So
my pleasure.
Thank you again for sharing your story, and hopefully somebody heard something that they needed to hear. And,
can I say one last thing that's really important? Because I heard this from a lot of women. Tell actually, this is for the young men out there or the older men out there. If you ask your mom, your aunt, your sister, your daughter to go get a mammogram, they probably will. If you tell them that you love them and you want them to live and you want them here, they will probably go.
Got it? Good. That's when we ended on that note right there. If you love your people, let them know to go to the doctor. Don't deny, verify. Again, thank you for watching. We'll be back next month.